let's talk about Raisin in the Sun.
Mm, yeah.
For those of you who don't know, all of the names of your projects are names of Cydney Poitier movies. So
Just some of them. Right. Most
for
of
the
them. Yeah, most of them.
for the young ones that don't know,
Hmm.
Who is and why is he important? Now I gotta say, I know who Cydney Poitier is, but
Right.
he was a little bit ahead of my time. So
Right.
I don't know the culture, how culturally he impacted stuff because it wasn't going on at my time.
Right. Well, Sidney Poitier he came in a time when, you know, black actors, black actors at that time, around Sidney Poitier's time, black actors didn't really have, it wasn't really a stand up role for a black man. He either played like a criminal, or he played like a prisoner, or he played like somebody escaping from somewhere, whatever have you. But it wasn't like the type of role that you could really respect. A man that looked like us would play,
Right.
but Sidney Poitier was a dude who he did just that. He had roles, he played roles that were very respectable, man. He was a very intelligent black man, and he meant a lot to black people. Surely he was a hero in my living room growing up. His movies, my parents had him, had all his movies growing up, and it's just he was a heavy influence in my house. But it's a positive brother. So if you're gonna use a name like this, there's responsibility behind it. You don't want to, so to speak, you don't want to tarnish the varnish because of the great things that this man has done. So that's why this hip hop and what I do is a grown man rap. We're not talking about jewelry and cars and women. We're talking about real current event things and things that are going on and making real good music. And like I said, most of the titles of my songs are Sidney Poitier movie titles. However, um, this particular one, "A Raisin in the Sun," is not just a Sidney Poitier movie. It's actually a poem. I forget the lady who wrote the poem. I forget her name. I'll probably remember it before the show's over. But it's a poem that was written by this woman, and the poem is about the 1950s. It's about people of color settling into neighborhoods that they weren't used to. Like by 1950, there were some people of color with some money, and they started moving into nice areas, places they weren't familiar with, which is exactly my story. Because remember, I'm coming from Detroit, what I'm saying, which is basically a black city. I'm coming to Orlando, Florida, which at the time really wasn't. So, I got white friends, bro. Like I'm going to school out here and I got white friends. So A Raisin in the Sun is my story too, because my family, in most cases, in a lot of cases, when we moved to Orlando, I was probably one of maybe three black families in that neighborhood, and probably maybe three in the classroom, maybe 12 in the whole school.
Right.
So A Raisin in the Sun was my story too, my real story, because when my parents moved to Orlando, they brought property in Castleberry and in Altamont Springs. And both of those areas are kind of upscale areas. And so my whole culture changed. I went from Detroit and Black City to a predominantly white area. And that's why I named the project A Raisin in the Sun. Because it's not only does it connect with Cydney Poitier, but it tells my story. So that's why that's the name of the project.
Right.